My sister borrowed money from me for years, claiming it was for our mother's medical bills. Then Mom called me one day, asking why I never visit. When I told her I'd been sending money for her treatment, she went silent. Mom, there's nothing wrong with me. I haven't seen a doctor in years. Hello, beautiful souls. This is Marina, and I'm so grateful you're here with me today. Before we dive into my story, I just want to say, if my words touch your heart, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Tell me which city you're listening from, so I can see how far a woman's voice can truly reach. Let's build this community together and bring more honest stories to light. My name is Celeste Morrison, and I'm 43 years old. For the last 6 years, I believed I was doing something noble, something right. I thought I was saving my mother's life. Every month, without fail, I sent $700 to my younger sister Vivian. $700 that I scraped together from my salary as a high school art teacher in Portland, Oregon. $700 that meant I couldn't take my daughter to the summer camps she wanted to attend. $700 that kept me from fixing the washing machine that broke down 3 years ago, forcing me to haul laundry to the laundromat every weekend in the rain, my arms aching as I carried heavy baskets up and down the stairs of my apartment building. But I did it willingly. Gladly even, because Vivian told me it was for Mom. It started in the spring of 2019. I was grading papers in my small apartment when Vivian called. Her voice was shaking, breaking with emotion in a way that immediately made my stomach drop. Celeste, it's Mom. She collapsed yesterday at the grocery store. They ran tests at the hospital. It's her heart. She needs surgery, medication, ongoing treatment. The bills are astronomical. Insurance is fighting everything. My hands went cold. The red pen I was holding slipped from my fingers and rolled across the student essay I'd been reading. Our mother, Dorothy, was only 68 then. She lived in Austin, Texas, where Vivian had moved to be closer to her after our father passed away from lung cancer 5 years earlier. I was in Portland, too far to help in person, juggling a teaching job and raising my 10-year-old daughter Iris on my own after my divorce from her father, who'd left us for a woman he met at his gym. How much does she need? I asked immediately, my voice tight with worry. Vivian sighed, a heavy, painful sound that seemed to carry the weight of the world. The doctors say at least $700 a month for medications and follow-up appointments. Her insurance doesn't cover the specialists she needs. I'm doing what I can, Celeste, but I'm drowning here. I lost my job last month. I can't do this alone. Mom's going to die if we can't get her the treatment. I'll help, I said without hesitation. Send me the details. I'll start transferring money right away, whatever Mom needs. Thank you, she whispered, and I could hear her crying. Thank you so much. Mom's going to be okay, because of you. You're saving her life. That was the beginning. Every month, I sent $700 to Vivian's account. She'd text me updates that I would read obsessively, finding comfort in each one. Mom's responding well to treatment. The new medication is helping her blood pressure. She's getting stronger every day. Sometimes she'd send a photo, grainy images of Mom sitting in a chair by a window, looking tired, but smiling weakly at the camera. I treasured those photos. I printed them out and put them on my fridge, right next to Iris's artwork from school. But as the months turned into years, something began to bother me. A small voice in the back of my mind that I kept trying to silence. I'd call Mom to check on her, to hear her voice, to ask how she was feeling, but Vivian always answered Mom's phone. Mom's resting right now, she'd say. The treatment exhausts her so much. She sleeps most of the day. She'll call you back later when she has more energy. But Mom never called back. When I tried Mom's cell phone directly, it would ring and ring endlessly, then go to voicemail. Her voice on the recording sounded strong and healthy, which confused me. Vivian had an explanation for everything, delivered smoothly and convincingly. Mom changed her number and forgot to tell you. You know how scattered she gets. Mom's phone broke, and she's waiting for a new one. Mom's not good with technology anyway, you know that. She can barely figure out how to send a text message. And I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Vivian was my sister. She was there with Mom every day. She was the one changing bandages and driving to appointments and managing medications. I was 1,000 miles away, trusting that the person I shared a childhood with, the person who knew my secrets and my fears, was telling me the truth. 6 years, 72 payments, $50,400. That money represented every sacrifice I made. It represented the vacation to Disneyland that Iris begged for but never got, the tears in her eyes when I had to tell her we couldn't afford it this year, maybe next year, always next year. It represented the new winter coat I needed but never bought, wearing the same threadbare one year after year, the lining torn and the zipper broken, held together with safety pins. It represented the nights I ate instant noodles or plain rice so I could send that money to Texas, believing it was keeping my mother alive, believing I was being a good daughter. It represented the parent-teacher conferences where I smiled and pretended everything was fine, while other parents talked about their vacation plans and new cars. It represented the dentist appointments I canceled because I couldn't afford the copay, living with a cavity that eventually became a painful root canal. It represented the Christmas mornings where Iris opened fewer presents than her friends, where I made excuses about teaching the value of simplicity. Then came the call that shattered everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The leaves were just starting to turn orange and gold, and there was a crisp coolness in the air that promised autumn. I was in my classroom after the last bell had rung, setting up an easel for the next day's lesson on perspective drawing, when my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. My heart jumped. She was calling me directly. Finally, after all this time. Celeste, honey. Her voice sounded strong, vibrant even, full of energy and life. Nothing like the weak, ailing woman I'd imagined lying in a hospital bed or hooked up to machines. Mom, hi. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling wonderful, sweetheart. I just got back from my morning walk around the park. 5 miles today. I'm training for a charity walk next month to raise money for the Literacy Center. You should see how beautiful the weather is here. I froze. The paintbrush I was holding clattered to the floor. Morning walk? 5 miles? Training for a charity walk? What about your heart condition? Your treatment? The surgery you needed? There was a long, confused silence on the other end. When Mom spoke again, her voice was puzzled, concerned. Sweetheart, what heart condition? I'm healthy as a horse. I haven't been to a doctor for anything more than a regular checkup and my annual mammogram in years. My last physical was perfect. The doctor said I have the blood pressure of a woman 20 years younger. The classroom tilted. The colorful student paintings on the walls seemed to blur and swim. I gripped the edge of a desk to steady myself, my knuckles turning white. What do you mean? Vivian told me you needed surgery 6 years ago, that you collapsed at the grocery store, that you were on expensive medications that insurance wouldn't cover. I've been sending money every month for 6 years for your medical bills. Another silence, heavier this time, thick with confusion and growing alarm. Celeste, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been sick. I've never collapsed at any grocery store. Vivian never mentioned anything about medical bills or you sending money. Honey, what's going on? Are you okay? My vision blurred. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint or vomit or both. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed too bright, harsh and unforgiving. I managed to stammer, Mom, I need to call you back, and hung up with trembling fingers. I stood there in my empty classroom, surrounded by half-finished student paintings of trees and landscapes, the smell of acrylic paint and chalk dust in the air, and felt my entire reality crumbling around me like a sandcastle hit by a wave. For 6 years, she'd lied to my face, to my heart, to my trust. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, scrolling through every bank transfer, every text message, every email, building a timeline of deception. The evidence was all there, laid out in damning detail. Monthly payments, like clockwork, never missed once. Vivian's messages thanking me, updating me on Mom's fake progress with medical details that sounded so convincing. I felt sick, physically sick. I ran to the bathroom twice to vomit, my body rejecting the truth as violently as my mind struggled to accept it. Iris found me at 3 a.m, still sitting at the kitchen table, my laptop screen glowing in the darkness. Mom, what's wrong? You're scaring me. I looked at my daughter, her hair messy from sleep, her eyes worried, and I couldn't find the words. How do you tell your child that everything you thought was true was a lie? The next morning, after Iris left for school, I called Vivian. My hands shook so badly I could barely dial. I'd rehearsed what I would say, but all my planned words evaporated when I heard her voice. She answered cheerfully, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't stolen years of my life. Hey Celeste, what's up? I was just thinking about you. I spoke slowly, carefully, each word deliberate. I talked to Mom yesterday. Silence, just for a second, but it was there. Then, casually, oh, that's nice. How's she doing? Did she tell you about her charity walk training? She told me she's perfectly healthy, that she hasn't been sick, that she doesn't know anything about the money I've been sending you for 6 years. More silence, longer this time. When Vivian finally spoke, her voice had changed. The cheerfulness was gone, replaced by something wary, defensive. Celeste, I can explain. Explain what? I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Explain that you've been lying to me for 6 years? That you stole over $50,000 from me. Explain how you could do that to your own sister. I didn't steal anything, she said, and her voice rose too, matching mine. I needed that money, Celeste. I was in a bad situation. I had debts. I didn't know what else to do. You don't understand what I was going through. So you invented a dying mother? You lied to me for 6 years, took my money while I struggled, while my daughter went without things she needed, because I thought I was saving Mom's life? You have a steady job, Vivian snapped, and I could hear anger creeping into her tone now. You have stability, you have a pension and benefits and a nice apartment. I had nothing. I was desperate. I was about to lose my car, my apartment, everything. What was I supposed to do? Not manipulate my love for our mother. Oh, please, Vivian said, and her voice turned cold and mocking. Don't act so high and mighty. You barely even visited Mom. You were perfectly happy to send money and feel good about yourself without actually having to do anything. I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who actually takes care of her. The audacity of her words hit me like a physical slap. You're unbelievable. If you tell Mom, she'll never forgive me, Vivian said, and suddenly her voice changed again, becoming smaller, pleading, desperate. Please, Celeste. I'll pay you back. I promise. I just need time. Just don't tell her. Don't destroy our family over this. I hung up. My whole body trembled with rage and betrayal and a deep aching sadness that felt like it might swallow me whole. That evening, I told Iris everything. She was 16 now, old enough to understand, old enough to deserve the truth. We sat on the couch together, the same couch where we'd watched movies and done homework and had deep conversations about life. And I explained how her aunt had lied, how the money I'd sent had been for nothing, how we'd sacrificed for 6 years based on deception. Iris cried, not for the lost opportunities, the camps she'd missed and the clothes she'd wanted, but because she saw how deeply I was hurt. She wrapped her arms around me and held me, while I cried too, something I rarely did in front of her. Mom, what are you going to do? She asked, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm not letting this go. I can't. Over the next few days, I did research. I spent hours online, reading about fraud laws and civil litigation and family theft. I found out that what Vivian had done wasn't just morally wrong, it was legally fraud. I could press charges. I could take her to court. I could demand my money back. But every time I thought about it, I pictured our childhood. Vivian and I playing in our backyard in Dallas, building blanket forts in the living room on rainy days, sharing secrets late at night when we were supposed to be sleeping. I remembered her braiding my hair for my first school dance. I remembered being her maid of honor at her wedding. How had that little girl, that woman I'd loved and trusted, turned into someone who could do this to me? But then I'd remember the sacrifices, the instant noodles, the broken washing machine, Iris's disappointed face every time I said we couldn't afford something. And my resolve would harden again. Her name was Renata Cross, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in family fraud cases. I found her through an online search and read dozens of reviews from clients who praised her fierce advocacy. I met her in her downtown Portland office, A sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on the walls, and a commanding view that made me feel like justice was possible. "Ms. Morrison," Renata said after I'd told her everything, laying out the timeline and showing her my documentation, "you have a very strong case. Your sister committed wire fraud. With the documentation you have, the bank transfers, the text messages, the false pretenses, we can pursue both criminal charges and a civil lawsuit for restitution." "What are my chances of getting the money back?" I asked, my voice small in that big office. Renata leaned back in her leather chair, her fingers steepled in front of her. "That depends on whether your sister has assets. Does she own property? Have savings? A car? Any valuable possessions?" "I don't know," I admitted. "We haven't been close in years, even before this. I know she lost a job a few years ago, but beyond that, I don't know much about her financial situation." "We'll find out," Renata said confidently. "We'll subpoena her bank records, her employment history, everything. But I need to be honest with you, Miss Morrison. These cases can get ugly. Family fraud often does. Your sister will likely fight back. She'll try to discredit you, claim you're confused or lying, maybe even say the payments were gifts. She might turn other family members against you. Are you prepared for that?" About the sacrifices I'd made, about the lies Vivian had told month after month, year after year, looking me in the eye through text messages and phone calls and delivering deception with a smile. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm prepared." Renata nodded with approval. "Then let's begin." The first step was confronting Vivian with legal representation. Renata drafted a formal demand letter outlining the fraud, demanding full restitution of $50,400 plus interest and legal fees, and warning that failure to comply would result in both civil and criminal legal action. We sent it certified mail to Vivian's address in Austin, requiring signature confirmation. A week later, on a Thursday evening while I was making dinner, Vivian called me. She was hysterical, screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "How could you do this to me? How could you send me a lawyer's letter? I'm your sister. Family doesn't sue family. This is insane. Family doesn't lie and steal from family either," I said coldly, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I told you I'd pay you back," she shouted. "I just need time. You can't do this to me. You're going to destroy my life." 6 years, Vivian. You had 6 years to tell me the truth. You didn't pay back a single dollar. You spent my money on yourself while I struggled, while your niece went without things, while I ate cheap food and wore torn clothes. "You don't understand what I was going through," she cried, and now she was sobbing, ugly, desperate sobs that might have moved me once. "I was in debt. I was going to lose everything. I didn't have a choice. You chose to lie." She started crying harder, her words becoming almost incomprehensible. "Please, Celeste, I'm begging you. Drop this. I'll lose everything. They'll take my car, my apartment. I have nothing. You'll leave me with nothing." "You should have thought about that before you stole from me," I said, and my voice was ice. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." I hung up and immediately blocked her number, my hands shaking with adrenaline. The lawsuit moved forward with methodical precision. Renata subpoenaed Vivian's bank records, her employment history, her tax returns. What we found was damning and infuriating in equal measure. The money I'd sent hadn't gone to medical bills. It had gone to luxury purchases that made me physically ill to see listed in black and white. Designer handbags from Coach and Michael Kors. Expensive dinners at upscale restaurants I could never afford. A trip to Cancun with friends, documented on her social media with photos of her smiling on beaches and holding cocktails. A new car, a sleek Nissan Altima that must have cost thousands. Regular purchases at high-end clothing stores. Spa treatments, concert tickets, wine club memberships. Vivian had been living a lifestyle she couldn't afford, funded entirely by my belief that I was saving our mother's life. While I ate instant ramen, she ate filet mignon. While I wore a torn coat, she bought designer purses. While Iris went without summer camp, Vivian went to Mexico. I felt so many emotions looking at those records, staring at the spreadsheet Renata had prepared, documenting every dollar and where it went. Rage, white-hot and consuming. Betrayal that cut so deep I felt it in my bones, but also something else, something unexpected. A deep, aching sadness that threatened to overwhelm everything else. This was my sister. We'd grown up together, shared a room until we were teenagers, told each other everything. And she'd looked me in the eye, metaphorically, every month for 6 years and lied with such ease, such conviction. Mom called me during this time, her voice shaking. "Celeste, Vivienne told me what's happening. Is it true? Does she really take money from you by lying about me being sick?" "It's true, Mom," I said quietly, sitting in my car in the school parking lot after a long day of teaching. Mom was silent for a long moment. I could hear her breathing on the other end, processing. Then she said, her voice thick with emotion, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea. If I'd known, I would have stopped it immediately. I can't believe she would do something like this." "It's not your fault, Mom. You didn't know." "What are you going to do?" she asked carefully. "I'm taking her to court. I need that money back, Mom. It wasn't just my money. It was Iris's future too. It was 6 years of our lives." "I understand," Mom said, and I heard sadness, but also something else in her voice, resolution. "And I support you, Celeste. What Vivienne did was unforgivable. She's my daughter and I love her, but what she did to you was wrong, deeply wrong." Hearing Mom say that lifted a weight off my shoulders I hadn't realized I was carrying. I wasn't destroying the family. Vivienne had already done that the moment she chose to lie. The court date arrived on a cold November morning. The sky was gray and heavy with the promise of rain, matching my mood perfectly. Renata and I sat on one side of the courtroom, dressed professionally, prepared with binders full of evidence. Vivienne sat on the other side, with a public defender, a young man who looked fresh out of law school and overwhelmed. Vivienne looked small and defeated, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit quite right. She'd aged in the months since I'd last seen her photo online. Her face was drawn, her eyes red and puffy from crying, her hair unstyled. The judge was an older man named Howard Friedman, with white hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He had a reputation, Renata had told me, for being fair but firm, with no patience for fraud or deception. He reviewed the evidence methodically, page by page. Bank statements showing the regular transfers, text messages where Vivienne had thanked me for the payments and provided fake updates on Mom's condition. The phone call I'd recorded, legally, where she'd admitted to needing the money for her own debts. Vivienne's bank records showing the luxury purchases. The statement from the bank confirming Mom had never had any medical debt or unpaid bills. When he looked up, his expression was grave, his mouth set in a firm line. "Miss Vivienne Morrison," he said, addressing my sister, "do you dispute any of the evidence presented by the plaintiff?" Vivienne's lawyer whispered something to her urgently. She shook her head, looking down at her hands. "No, Your Honor. And do you have anything to say for yourself?" Vivienne stood slowly, her legs seeming to barely support her weight. Her voice was barely audible, thin and trembling. "I was desperate, Your Honor. I made terrible choices. I never meant to hurt anyone." "Sorry doesn't return $50,000 to your sister," Judge Friedman said sharply, his voice cutting through the courtroom. "Sorry doesn't give her back 6 years. Based on the evidence presented, which is overwhelming and undisputed, I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff. You are ordered to pay full restitution of $50,400, plus $20,000 in punitive damages for the deliberate and sustained nature of the fraud, plus legal fees totaling $8,000. Total amount, $78,400. Vivienne's face crumpled. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. "Your Honor, I don't have that kind of money. I barely make minimum wage." "Then your wages will be garnished at the maximum legal rate, and any assets you possess will be seized and sold until the debt is paid in full." "Do you own a vehicle?" "Yes," she whispered. "It will be repossessed and sold. The proceeds will go toward your debt." Court adjourned. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that seemed to echo in the silent courtroom. I walked out of that courtroom into the gray November morning, feeling hollow. I'd won. The judge had ruled completely in my favor, awarded me everything I'd asked for and more. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss, like grief, like the death of something that could never be brought back to life. Renata put a hand on my shoulder as we stood on the courthouse steps. "You did the right thing," she said firmly. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." If I opened my mouth, I might start crying and never stop. Over the following months, Vivian's life unraveled in a way that was both satisfying and heartbreaking to watch. Her car, that sleek Nissan Altima she bought with my money, was repossessed within 2 weeks of the judgment. The repo men came in the middle of the night and towed it away. Her wages from her job as a receptionist at a dental office were garnished at the maximum legal rate, meaning she was taking home barely enough to survive. Her apartment, a nice 2-bedroom in a decent part of Austin, was foreclosed when she couldn't make rent. She had to move in with a friend, sleeping on a couch, reduced to the poverty I'd been living in while funding her luxury lifestyle. Every month, a portion of her garnished wages would appear in my bank account. Sometimes it was $200, sometimes less. It was slow, painfully slow, but it was progress. It was justice in installment payments. Mom tried to stay neutral, to maintain relationships with both her daughters, but I could tell it was killing her. She'd call me and Vivienne separately, trying to be supportive to both of us, trying not to take sides. But I knew she was heartbroken. One daughter was a thief. The other was the victim who'd taken her sister to court. There was no good outcome for a mother in that situation. Vivienne sent messages through mutual friends, through cousins, through anyone who would carry them. "You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy. I hope $78,000 was worth losing your sister. I'll never forgive you for this." I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? She'd destroyed her own life, the moment she chose to lie. I'd simply refused to be her victim. Iris asked me one night, as we were doing dishes together in our small kitchen, "Mom, do you regret taking her to court? Do you wish you'd just let it go?" I thought about it carefully, washing a plate slowly while I considered my answer. "No," I said finally. "What she did was wrong. She needed to face consequences. Actions have consequences. That's an important lesson. But I regret that it had to come to this. I regret that our relationship is destroyed. I regret that our family is broken. I regret that I ever trusted her in the first place." "But you didn't break it," Iris said wisely, drying a glass. "She did. When she lied, when she stole. You just refused to keep pretending everything was okay. And at 16, she understood something about boundaries and self-respect that it had taken me 43 years to learn." Vivian had made her choices. I'd simply refused to be her doormat, her ATM, her willing victim. As the money slowly came back to me, through garnishments and asset seizures, I started rebuilding our life in small ways. I took Iris on that Disneyland trip we'd always talked about, the one I'd promised her for years but never delivered. She was older now, almost 17, technically too old for Disney, but when she saw Cinderella's castle lit up against the night sky, she lit up like a child. We stayed for 4 days, rode every ride multiple times, ate overpriced churros and giant turkey legs, watched the fireworks show, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. It cost me $2,000, money that had come back from Vivian's garnished wages, and it was worth every penny. I bought myself a new winter coat. A nice one from a real store, not a thrift shop. It was warm and well-made, with a hood and deep pockets, in a rich burgundy color that made me feel elegant. It cost $300, which once would have been unthinkable, but now felt like a small act of reclaiming my life. I got the washing machine fixed. The repair cost $400, but it meant no more hauling laundry to the laundromat every weekend. No more quarters and detergent and sitting on hard plastic chairs waiting for cycles to finish. It meant I could do laundry in my own home, on my own schedule, with dignity. These were small things, but they felt monumental. They felt like breathing again after being underwater for 6 years. I also started therapy. I knew I needed to process the betrayal, the anger, the grief of losing my sister. My therapist was a woman named Dr. Opal Winters, a kind-faced woman in her 60s with silver hair and gentle eyes who specialized in family trauma and betrayal. Her office was cozy, filled with plants and soft lighting, with comfortable chairs and a white noise machine that made it feel safe to speak the truth. In our first session, I I told her everything. The lies, the money, the lawsuit, the judgment. I cried through most of it, using up an entire box of tissues. "How do you feel about what happened?" Dr. Winters asked, when I finished. "Angry," I said immediately. "Betrayed. Stupid for believing her for so long." "You're not stupid," Dr. Winters said gently. "You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity. That's love. She abused that trust, but that doesn't make you foolish. It makes her dishonest." Over weeks and months of therapy, Dr. Winters helped me understand that what I was feeling was valid, that anger and grief could exist simultaneously, that I could mourn the relationship while still holding Vivian accountable, that forgiveness wasn't something I owed anyone, including myself. One session, several months in, Dr. Winters asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" "I don't know," I admitted, staring at a plant in the corner of her office. "Part of me wants to, part of me thinks that's what I'm supposed to do. But forgiveness feels like letting her off the hook, like saying what she did was okay." "Forgiveness isn't for her," Dr. Winters said gently. "It's about releasing the hold this has on your heart. It's not about saying what she did was acceptable. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of her actions." "I'm not ready for that yet," I said. "That's okay," Dr. Winters replied. "You may never be ready." A year after the court ruling, I'd received about $32,000 back through various garnishments and seizures. Still a long way from the full $78,000, but it was significant progress. Vivienne continued to work her minimum wage job, continued to have her wages garnished, continued to live a life of deprivation and struggle. I heard through Mom that she was barely surviving, eating cheap food, unable to afford basic necessities, living in a constant state of financial stress. Part of me felt vindicated. She was experiencing exactly what I'd experienced while funding her lifestyle, the constant worry about money, the sacrifices, the going without. But another part of me just felt sad. This was my sister. I'd loved her once. We'd been close once. And now we were locked in this terrible dance of debt and resentment, connected only by monthly garnishment payments. Then, something unexpected happened. I received a letter in the mail, handwritten in an envelope with no return address. My hands shook as I opened it, somehow knowing it was from Vivienne, even before I saw her familiar looping handwriting. "Celeste," it began, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, to take up even a moment of your time. But I need to say this, and I need you to hear it, even if you throw this letter away without reading it all. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, truly, completely sorry for what I did. There's no excuse for it. There's no justification. I was selfish and desperate, and I convinced myself that taking from you was okay because you seemed stable, and I was falling apart. I told myself you wouldn't miss the money, that you could afford it, that I'd pay you back someday when I got on my feet. But those were all lies I told myself to justify theft, because that's what it was, theft. Not borrowing, not temporary help, theft. What I did was betrayal of the deepest kind. It was lying to you about Mom's health, which is unforgivable. It was taking advantage of your love and your sense of family duty. It was stealing your money, your peace of mind, your trust. It was unforgivable. I've spent this past year living with the consequences of my actions, and I deserve every bit of it. I'm not writing to ask you to drop the lawsuit or to stop the garnishments or to forgive me. I'm writing because I need you to know that I understand now what I took from you. It wasn't just money, though that was bad enough. It was trust, it was security, it was 6 years of your life. It was the relationship we had as sisters. It was your faith in family. And I can never, ever give any of that back. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect anything from you ever again. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I understand what I did, and that I think about it every single day, that I hate myself for it every single day. I hope Iris is doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope someday you can think about me without feeling rage or pain. Your sister, Vivienne. I read the letter 3 times, then 4, then 5. Each time I felt different emotions. Anger that she thought a letter could make any difference. Sadness at the relationship we'd lost. A tiny, barely acknowledged flicker of something that might have been relief that she understood what she'd done. Then I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer in my bedroom, and didn't respond. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. If you feel my words reaching your heart, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Tell me which city you're listening from so I can see how far a woman's voice can travel when she speaks her truth. Help me build this community so we can bring more stories like this, stories of survival and strength, to women everywhere. Iris graduated high school that spring with honors. I sat in the auditorium with Mom, who'd flown in from Austin, and watched my daughter walk across that stage in her cap and gown to receive her diploma. With the money I'd recovered from Vivian, I was able to help Iris with college expenses in a way I never could have before. She got into a prestigious art school in San Francisco, following in my creative footsteps, and I could actually contribute to her tuition instead of just taking out loans. Watching her walk across that graduation stage, seeing her smile as she held her diploma, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride and relief. Despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the financial strain and the family drama, we'd made it. We were okay. We were more than okay. We were thriving. Mom hugged me after the ceremony, standing in the crowded parking lot surrounded by celebrating families. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "Not just for Iris, though she's wonderful, but for how you handled everything with Vivian. For standing up for yourself." "It wasn't easy," I admitted. "The right thing rarely is," Mom replied. We didn't talk about Vivian much, Mom and I. It was an unspoken agreement, a careful dance around a painful subject. Mom loved both her daughters, but she couldn't deny what had happened. She couldn't pretend Vivian's actions were acceptable. So we talked about other things, about Iris, about Mom's charity work, about my teaching, about everything except the sister-shaped hole in our family.
2 years after the court case, I'd recovered $51,000.
The garnishments continued steadily, 20% of Vivian's wages every paycheck, plus occasional lump sums when she got tax refunds or other windfalls that were immediately seized. Renata told me it would probably take another 2 or 3 years to recover everything, given Vivian's income level. "I'm patient," I told her during one of our check-in calls. "I've waited this long, I can wait longer." But something was shifting inside me, subtle and gradual like seasons changing. The anger that had burned so hot for so long was cooling into something else. Not forgiveness exactly. I wasn't ready for that word, wasn't sure I'd ever be. But a kind of weary acceptance. A recognition that this was my reality now. Vivian would always be the sister who betrayed me. I would always be the sister who sued. Our relationship was permanently altered, scarred, damaged beyond repair. There was no going back to what we were. There was barely a going forward. And slowly, painfully, I made peace with that. One afternoon, I was in my classroom after school, organizing supplies for the next semester, when my phone rang. Unknown Texas number. My finger hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. "Celeste?" It was Vivian's voice, tentative and small, like a child asking permission to speak. My first instinct was to hang up immediately, to protect myself from whatever manipulation or plea was coming. But I didn't. Some curiosity, some need to hear what she had to say, kept me on the line. "What do you want, Vivian?" Her voice cracked slightly. "I wanted to hear your voice. I know I have no right to call you. I know you probably hate me, but I've been thinking about you. About what we used to be before I destroyed everything. We can't be that again," I said flatly, my voice cold and hard. "Whatever we were is dead. You killed it." "I know," she whispered. "I know we can't. But Celeste, I miss you. I miss my sister. I miss having someone who knew me before everything went wrong." Something cracked inside me at those words. My eyes stung with unexpected tears that I blinked back furiously. "I miss her too," I said, my voice shaking slightly despite my efforts to control it. "But she's gone. You killed her when you lied to me for 6 years, when you stole from me, when you used Mom as a weapon against me." Vivian was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing, in the way her voice caught. "I know. I know I did, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life, but I want you to know that I'm getting help. I'm seeing a therapist twice a month. I'm in a financial literacy class. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, why I was so broken that I could hurt you like that. Good, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm glad you're getting help. You need it. But it doesn't change anything between us. I'm not asking it to, Vivian said quickly. I'm not calling to ask for forgiveness or to beg you to drop the lawsuit or anything like that. I just wanted you to know, and I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, for not letting me get away with it, for teaching me that actions have consequences. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us crying quietly on opposite ends of the phone, separated by 1,000 miles and 6 years of lies. Finally, I said, my throat tight, I need to go, Vivian. Okay, she whispered. Thank you for answering. Thank you for listening. I don't deserve even that much from you, but thank you. I hung up and sat there in my classroom, surrounded by the smell of paint and chalk and possibility, and let myself cry. For the sister I'd lost, for the innocence of believing family would never hurt you, for all the years wasted on lies and all the years ahead that would never be the same. But I also cried for something else, for relief, because I'd stood my ground, I'd held my boundaries, I'd stated my truth, without wavering, without being manipulated, without falling for tears or pleas. And that mattered. That meant something. Dr. Winters asked me in our next session, how did the call make you feel? Sad, I admitted, curled up in the comfortable chair in her office. So incredibly sad, but also strong. I didn't let her manipulate me. I didn't give in to guilt. I stated my truth and held firm. That's significant growth, Dr. Winters said with an approving nod. You're learning to hold compassion for your own pain while not taking responsibility for hers. 3 years after the lawsuit, I received a payment that brought the total recovered to $68,000. Just $10,000 left to go. Renata called to congratulate me. You're almost there, Celeste. Maybe another year, maybe less. But sitting there with the bank statement in my hands, looking at the numbers, I realized something. The money mattered, yes. It represented justice and accountability and my refusal to be a victim. But it wasn't what I'd really been fighting for. Not really. I'd been fighting for validation. For proof that what happened to me mattered. That my pain was real. That I deserved to be made whole. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, in all the ways that betrayal breaks a person. And I had been made whole. Not by the money, though that helped, but by refusing to accept the lie, by demanding truth, by standing up, by saying clearly and firmly, what you did was wrong, and I will not pretend otherwise. I used some of the recovered money to take Mom on a trip, just the two of us. We went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place neither of us had ever been. We wandered through art galleries filled with turquoise jewelry and vibrant paintings, ate incredible New Mexican food, talked about Dad and about our lives, and about books we'd read and movies we'd seen. We talked about everything except Vivian, though her absence was present in every conversation we didn't have. One evening, as we sat on the patio of our hotel, watching the sunset paint the desert sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, Mom said quietly, I'm proud of you, Celeste, for how you handled all of this. It couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, I agreed, watching the colors shift and blend. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't pretend it didn't happen. I couldn't just forgive and forget like nothing had changed. I know, Mom said, reaching over to squeeze my hand, and you were right to fight. Vivian needed to face what she'd done. She needed consequences. I love her. She's my daughter. But what she did to you was unforgivable. Do you think she's changed? I asked, turning to look at my mother's profile against the fading light. Mom considered this carefully, her face thoughtful. I think she's trying. I really do. I talk to her every week, and I can hear the difference. She's in therapy. She's working on herself. She's taking responsibility. But change is hard, Celeste, and some damage can't be undone. The trust she broke, the relationship you had, those things are gone. She can become a better person, but she can't turn back time. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon, the sky darkening to deep blue and then black, stars beginning to appear like tiny pinpricks of hope.
4 years after everything started, I had a chance encounter that shifted something in me. I was in Austin visiting Mom for Thanksgiving, walking through a local farmer's market on a crisp November morning when I saw Vivienne. She was working at a vegetable stand, wearing a simple green apron, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked older, tired, her hands rough from work. But there was something different about her. Something quieter, more humble, more genuine. Our eyes met across the crowded market, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread and roasted peppers and autumn flowers. We just looked at each other, two sisters who used to know everything about each other and now knew almost nothing. Then Vivienne gave me a small, sad smile. Not a plea for reconciliation, not manipulation or guilt, just acknowledgement. I see you, you see me. This is what we are now. This is what I made us. I nodded back, a tiny movement of my head, and kept walking. My heart was pounding, but I didn't feel the rage I'd expected. I didn't feel triumph or vindication or anger. I just felt sad. Deeply, achingly sad for what we'd lost and what we'd never get back. That night, sitting at Mom's kitchen table, eating leftover turkey and stuffing, Mom asked carefully, "I heard you saw Vivienne at the market today." "I did," I confirmed, pushing cranberry sauce around my plate. "How did it feel?" I thought about it, trying to find the right words. "Okay," I said finally. It felt okay. I didn't feel angry anymore. I haven't for a while, actually. Just sad. But I'm at peace with it, with everything. She made her choices, I made mine. And this is where we ended up. That's all we can hope for sometimes, Mom said wisely. Peace. Not happiness, not reconciliation, not everything fixed and perfect. Just peace. Iris called me from college later that week. She was thriving in art school, making friends, creating beautiful work, finding herself in ways that made my heart swell with pride. "Mom," she said excitedly, her voice bright with joy, "I got selected for a student exhibition at a real gallery in San Francisco. My paintings are going to be displayed with actual artists. People will see my work." "That's amazing, sweetheart," I said, my eyes filling with happy tears. "I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done this without you," she said, her voice turning serious. "Without you fighting for us, for our future, for showing me that it's okay to stand up for yourself, that it's okay to demand what you deserve. You taught me that, Mom. By suing Aunt Vivienne, by not backing down, by refusing to be a victim. Those words meant more to me than any court victory, than any money recovered. My daughter had learned the most important lesson I could teach her, that self-respect matters, that boundaries matter, that you don't have to accept betrayal, even from family. 5 years after the lawsuit, I'd recovered the full $78,400. The final payment came on a Tuesday morning, appearing in my bank account like the closing of a long, painful chapter. Renata called me to congratulate me. "You did it, Celeste. Full restitution, full victory." But sitting there looking at the bank statement, the complete number, I realized that victory wasn't quite the right word. Justice, maybe. Accountability, certainly. But victory implied winning, and nobody had won. Vivienne had lost her reputation, her family relationships, her financial stability. I'd lost my sister, 6 years of peace, my ability to trust easily. We'd both lost something precious and irreplaceable. What I'd gained, though, was something different, something that couldn't be measured in dollars. I'd gained my voice, my strength, my absolute refusal to accept lies and betrayal as the price of family love. I started a blog around this time. I called it Standing Firm, One Woman's Journey Through Family Betrayal. I wrote about my experience with Vivienne, about the warning signs I'd missed, about how to protect yourself from family fraud, about the emotional toll of betrayal and the long road to recovery. I wrote about therapy and healing and the difference between forgiveness and acceptance. The blog gained a following quickly, much faster than I'd expected. Other women reached out,
sharing their own stories of family betrayal. Siblings who stole inheritances. Children who drained their elderly parents' savings. Cousins who ran up credit cards in their relatives' names. The variations were endless, but the core was always devastatingly the same. Trust exploited. Love weaponized. Family ties used as tools of manipulation. One woman wrote to me from Ohio. Her brother had been stealing from their mother for years, claiming he was paying her nursing home bills when the mother wasn't even in a nursing home. My story, she said, had given her the courage to investigate, and she discovered fraud similar to mine. Because of you, I fought back, she wrote. Because of you, I knew I wasn't crazy or mean or ungrateful. I was protecting myself and my mother. Thank you. I started doing speaking engagements, small at first, local community centers and women's groups in Portland. Then, larger venues. I spoke at a conference on elder and family fraud in Seattle. I spoke at colleges about financial literacy and protecting yourself from games, even from family. I spoke at churches and community organizations about the difference between forgiveness and boundaries. After one speech at a women's shelter in Eugene, a woman in her 50s approached me. She had tears streaming down her face, mascara running in dark streaks. "Thank you," she said, grabbing my hands. "My sister has been doing the same thing to me, lying about our father's cancer treatments. I've been sending her money for 3 years, $800 a month. Because of your story, I called the hospital today. My father doesn't have cancer. He's never had cancer. I'm going to fight back." I hugged her tightly, this stranger who understood my pain in a way most people couldn't. "Document everything," I said firmly. "Keep every receipt, every text message, every email. Don't let guilt or family pressure stop you. You deserve justice. You deserve your money back. And most importantly, you deserve to stop being lied to." That became my mission, my purpose in a way teaching art had never quite been, helping others find their voice, encouraging them to demand truth, to refuse to be victims, to understand that family doesn't get a free pass to abuse, to steal, to betray. Vivian and I never reconciled, not really. We existed in the same family ecosystem, showing up at mom's birthday dinners and holiday gatherings, maintaining a careful, polite distance, like diplomats from hostile nations. We were cordial. We asked surface-level questions about each other's lives. We never discussed the lawsuit, or the money, or the lies. We simply coexisted in the same space, connected by blood and by mom, but strangers in every way that mattered. And I made peace with that reality. Some relationships can't survive betrayal. Some trust, once shattered, can't be glued back together, no matter how much you might want it to be. And that's okay. It's not about holding grudges or being unforgiving. It's about accepting reality and protecting yourself from further harm. On the 6th anniversary of filing the lawsuit, I received an email from Vivian. Subject line, 6 years later. I almost deleted it without reading, my finger hovering over the trash icon. But curiosity, or maybe some lingering connection to the sister she used to be, made me open it. Celeste, it read, "I know we're not close anymore. I know we probably never will be again, but I wanted to mark this day, the anniversary of when everything changed, by saying thank you. Thank you for not letting me get away with it. Thank you for forcing me to face what I'd done. These past 6 years have been the hardest of my life, harder than anything I've ever experienced. I lost my car, my apartment, my financial stability. I lost the respect of our family. I lost you, and I deserved to lose all of it. But I also gained something. I gained clarity. Understanding of who I was and who I want to become. I'm sober now, have been for 4 years. I'm in therapy, working through the issues that made me capable of such betrayal. I'm working 2 jobs, trying to rebuild my life on a foundation of truth this time, not lies and manipulation. I'll never be able to repay what I took from you, and I'm not talking about the money, though that was significant. I'm talking about the trust, the years, the relationship we had. I'm talking about your peace of mind and your sense of security. I'm talking about forcing you to become someone who sues family when that's never who you were. I changed you, and not in a good way. But I want you to know that your refusal to accept my betrayal changed me too. It saved me in a strange way. It forced me to hit bottom, to face myself, to choose between continuing to be the person who lies and steals or becoming someone better. Finally, I hope you're well. I hope Iris is thriving in her art career. I hope you found peace and maybe even happiness. I hope you can think about me occasionally without feeling rage or pain, though I'd understand if you can't. With regret, gratitude, and the hope that someday I might become someone worthy of your forgiveness, even if you never give it, Vivienne. I read the email several times, each reading bringing different emotions to the surface. Then I did something that surprised even me. I wrote back. Vivienne, I typed carefully, choosing each word with intention. I'm glad you're getting help. I'm glad you're facing your truth and working to become a better person. That takes courage, and I recognize that. We'll never be what we were. The sisters we were died the day you chose to lie to me about Mom's health. That relationship is gone, and it's not coming back. But I don't wish you harm. I don't sit around hoping you suffer. I hope you continue to grow and heal and build a life based on honesty. I hope you find peace with what you did and who you were. I can't say I forgive you. I don't know if I ever will, if I'm even capable of that. But I can say that I've let go of most of the anger. I've moved forward with my life. I'm happy, or as happy as anyone can be. And I hope you can move forward too. Take care of yourself, Celeste. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. An acknowledgement that we'd both been changed by what happened, that we were both moving forward in our separate directions, no longer actively hurting each other, but also no longer truly connected. Mom called me after she somehow found out about our email exchange. How do you feel? She asked, her voice careful, trying not to push. Lighter, I admitted, sitting in my living room with a cup of tea. I didn't realize how much energy I was spending on active anger until I let some of it go. I'm not saying I forgive her, or that I want a relationship with her, but I don't hate her anymore. I just feel sad about the whole situation. I'm proud of you, Mom said, and I could hear the emotion in her voice. For fighting when you needed to fight, and for knowing when to stop fighting and just live your life. Iris graduated college with honors and got a job at a prestigious art gallery in San Francisco. I went to her graduation with Mom, and we sat together in the crowd, watching my daughter walk across that stage with her degree, her future bright and full of possibility. This, I thought as I applauded, this was what all the fighting had been for. For her future. For her opportunities. For her knowing that her mother had been strong enough to stand up for herself. To refuse to be a doormat. To teach her that strength and truth and boundaries mattered. At the graduation dinner that night, Iris raised her glass. To Mom, she said, looking directly at me with love and pride shining in her eyes. For being the strongest woman I know. For teaching me to stand up for myself. For showing me that love doesn't mean accepting lies or abuse. For demonstrating that family bonds don't erase the need for accountability. We clinked glasses, and I felt a rush of gratitude so overwhelming it brought tears to my eyes. Not for what I'd lost, though that loss was real and painful, but for what I'd gained. Strength, clarity, self-respect, the knowledge that I could survive betrayal and come out stronger. 7 years after everything began, I met someone. His name was Marcus Chen, and he taught history at my school. We'd known each other for years in that casual colleague way, but we'd never really talked, until we both ended up chaperoning a field trip to the Portland Art Museum. During the bus ride back, we started talking about art and history and how they intersect, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Connection. The possibility of trust. When I told him my story over coffee one Saturday morning, laying out the whole painful saga of Vivienne's betrayal and the lawsuit and the aftermath, he listened without judgment, without interrupting, just nodding and asking thoughtful questions. "You sued your own sister?" he asked when I finished. But there was no disapproval in his voice, just curiosity. "I did," I confirmed, watching his face for signs of judgment. "She stole from me. I couldn't let it go. Some people think that makes me cold or vindictive. I think it makes you strong," he said simply. "Too many people let family get away with abuse because they're afraid of being judged. You chose yourself and your daughter over maintaining a false peace. That takes real courage." I fell a little bit in love with him right then, in that coffee shop, with the sound of steaming milk and quiet conversation around us. Our relationship grew slowly, carefully. I was cautious about trust now, about letting people in, about believing what they said. Betrayal leaves scars, invisible but deep, that change how you move through the world. But Marcus was patient. He understood that trust had to be earned, not assumed. He never pushed. He never demanded. He just showed up, consistently and honestly, being exactly who he said he was. One evening as we walked through Washington Park, the cherry blossoms just starting to bloom in clouds of pink and white, he asked, "Do you ever regret it, fighting back against your sister the way you did?" I thought about it, really considered the question instead of giving an automatic answer. "Sometimes I regret that it had to happen at all," I said slowly. "I regret that she made choices that forced me to make choices. I regret that our relationship is destroyed. But no, I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret refusing to be a victim. I'd do it again." He took my hand, his fingers warm and steady. "You're an amazing woman, Celeste Morrison. I hope you know that." Those words, simple and sincere, healed something in me I didn't even know still needed healing. Mom's 80th birthday was a big celebration. We rented a community hall, invited extended family and friends, decorated with photos from her 8 decades of life. Vivian was there, because of course she was. We'd agreed separately, through Mom, that this day was about celebrating her, not about our broken relationship. I watched Vivian from across the room as she talked to cousins and old family friends. She looked healthier now, more present in her own life. She'd gained a little weight, which was good. The gaunt desperation of those first post-lawsuit years had faded. She was wearing a simple dress, nothing expensive, and she looked almost at peace. She caught my eye at one point and gave me that same small, sad smile I'd seen at the farmer's market years ago. I nodded back, an acknowledgement that we were both here, both trying to honor Mom in our own ways, both living with the consequences of choices made years ago. Later, as I was getting a piece of cake from Mom, Vivian approached me at the dessert table. We stood side by side, not quite looking at each other, both focused on the elaborate cake decorated with edible flowers. "She looks happy," Vivian said quietly, meaning Mom, who was laughing with her book club friends across the room. "She does," I agreed, using the cake server to cut a perfect slice. Vivian hesitated, and I could feel her working up the courage to say something. Then, quietly, "Thank you for letting me be here, for not making Mom choose between us." "It's her birthday," I said simply. "You're her daughter. She loves you." Vivienne nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. After a moment, she said, "Your daughter is beautiful. I saw her photos on Mom's phone. She looks so much like you, and so talented." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. "She's doing well." We stood in awkward silence for a moment. Two women who shared blood and history and devastating betrayal. Then Vivienne said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry, Celeste. For the lies, for the theft, for destroying what we had. I'm so sorry." I looked at her then, really looked at her for the first time in years. I saw the lines around her eyes, the gray in her hair that she didn't bother to dye, the humility in her posture. I saw someone who'd made terrible choices and was trying to live with them, trying to be better. "I know you are," I said finally, "and I've let go of most of the anger. I'm not carrying it around anymore. But things are different now, Vivienne. We're different. We can't go back." "I know," she whispered, a tear finally escaping and running down her cheek. "I know we can't go back. I destroyed that possibility. I just hope we can be this. Civil. Peaceful. For Mom. For Mom." I walked away with the cake, back to where Mom was holding court with her friends. And I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. I just felt at peace with reality. 8 years after the lawsuit, I was 51 years old. Iris was married now, to a wonderful person named Jordan, who loved art and treated my daughter like she was precious and irreplaceable. They lived in Seattle, and I visited often, staying in their spare room and going to gallery openings and Sunday farmers markets with them. I was still teaching art at the high school, still running my blog about family fraud and recovery, still speaking at events around the Pacific Northwest about financial abuse and the importance of boundaries. I'd helped dozens of women through the process of recognizing fraud, documenting it, seeking legal help, recovering what was stolen. Marcus and I got married 2 years after we started dating. Small ceremony on a beach in Cannon Beach, just close family and friends, the sound of waves providing natural music. Mom was there, crying happy tears. Iris was my maid of honor, glowing with joy. Even some of my former students came, now adults with their own lives, telling me how much I'd influenced them. Vivian wasn't there. We both agreed it would be too painful, too complicated, too much. She sent a card with a simple message. "Congratulations. I wish you all the happiness you deserve." It was signed simply with her name. No love, no family endearments, just acknowledgement. Marcus taught me that trust could be rebuilt, that not everyone would betray me, that it was okay to be vulnerable again. He never lied, never hid things, never gave me reason to doubt. He showed me through his actions, consistently over time, that he was exactly who he said he was. Mom was still going strong at 82. She walked 3 miles every morning, rain or shine, and volunteered at a literacy center, teaching adults to read. She talked to both her daughters separately, maintained relationships with both of us, but she'd long since stopped trying to push us toward reconciliation. She understood that some things couldn't be fixed, only accepted. Vivian was working as a financial counselor now, ironically enough, helping people with debt and budgeting issues. She'd been sober for 6 years, attending AA meetings regularly. She lived modestly in a small apartment, drove an old car, saved money carefully. She'd rebuilt her life on a foundation of honesty and humility, and from what Mom told me, she was doing okay. Not thriving, perhaps, but okay. We saw each other at family events perhaps 3 or 4 times a year. We were polite, asked surface questions about each other's lives, sometimes even laughed at the same jokes. But there was always a distance, an invisible wall built from betrayal and lawsuit papers and years of silence. And I'd accepted that wall. It protected me, reminded me of lessons learned, kept me safe. The money had long since been spent, invested in Iris's education and my house repairs and building a life I was proud of. But what I'd gained was worth infinitely more than $78,000. People still ask me sometimes, strangers after my speaking engagements or women he emailed through my blog, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? I always give the same answer, one I've refined over years of reflection and therapy and growth. I wish Vivian had never lied to me, I say. I wish she'd come to me honestly when she was struggling and said she needed help. I might have helped her willingly, within my means. We might have figured something out together. But once the lies started, once the betrayal happened, I wouldn't change a single thing about how I responded. I documented everything. I got legal help. I filed a lawsuit. I demanded accountability. I refused to be a victim, or to let family ties be used as an excuse for theft. And I'd do it all again. Because what I really gained wasn't money. It was my voice, my strength, my refusal to accept that family love means accepting abuse. And that, more than anything, is what I want other women to know. You are not obligated to accept mistreatment, even from family, especially from family, because family should know better. You are allowed to draw boundaries. You are allowed to demand accountability. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to choose yourself. I tell my students now, in my art classes where we work with paint and clay and all forms of creative expression, that creating something beautiful often requires scraping away the layers that don't serve the vision, that sometimes you have to destroy the first draft, paint over it completely, start fresh to find the truth underneath. It applies to life. It applied to my relationship with my sister. I scraped away the lies and the false relationship built on deception. I painted over the fantasy of a loving, trustworthy sister with the reality of betrayal and theft. And what I found underneath, once I cleared away all the false layers, was myself. Stronger, clearer, free. That's my story. That's my truth. And I'm sharing it with you, wherever you are in the world, whatever battle you're fighting, because I want you to know this with absolute certainty. You are not alone. If someone in your family is manipulating you, stealing from you, lying to you while hiding behind words like love and loyalty and family bonds, you are not wrong for questioning it. You are not cruel for protecting yourself.
You are not destroying the family by demanding truth.
The person who lied destroyed the family the moment they chose deception over honesty.
Stand up, speak truth, fight back when you need to fight, set boundaries and defend them fiercely. Document everything, always. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. And know that on the other side of that fight, whether you win in court or simply win back your peace of mind, there is healing and strength and a version of yourself you didn't know you could become. If my story has touched your heart, if you felt the weight of betrayal, or recognized yourself in my journey, or found strength in my refusal to back down, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Tell me which city you're listening from, so I can see how far a woman's powerful voice can reach when she speaks her truth without apology. Help me build this community of strong, honest, boundary-setting women, so we can continue bringing truthful, impactful stories that matter. My name is Celeste Morrison. I'm a teacher, a mother, a wife, a sister, and a survivor. I was lied to systematically for 6 years by someone I should have been able to trust completely. I was stolen from while I sacrificed and struggled, and I fought back with every tool I had. Not because I'm special, or uniquely strong, or blessed with some extraordinary courage, but because I refused to accept that being kind meant being a doormat. I refused to believe that family love required accepting betrayal. I refused to let shame or fear or guilt stop me from demanding what was right. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your pain is valid. Your anger is justified. You matter. Stand firm, speak clearly, demand truth, protect yourself, and remember, you are so much stronger than you know. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for letting me share my journey, and maybe, hopefully, helping you with yours. This is Marina, and I'll see you in the next story. Stay strong, beautiful souls. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. You deserve justice. And never, ever let anyone convince you otherwise.